We are here at AmFast 2025. I can't even believe it. We're missing Charlie Kirk, dear friend and brother, co-founder of the Standing for Freedom Center. And I'm with a good friend, Steve Deace, host of the Steve Deace Show. Brother, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
And the wife was going to yell at me if I didn't do this.
Yes. She's an alum.
This is her alma mater.
Yes.
Yes. So
we have a lot. We have over 300,000 Liberty alums. So that's a huge number.
That is a huge number.
We right now have over 160,000 students. One of the things that we're very concerned about at Liberty, at the Freedom Center, is the rise of anti-Semitism. We're seeing it crop up everywhere across the country. And by the way, this is not like something you can just say, oh, that's just Columbia University, or that's just Harvard, or that's just University of Pennsylvania, or University of Southern Cal. It's not just those places. We're seeing the rise of anti-Semitism even among the so-called evangelical groups in the country. And it starts with a kind of apathy, which is why should we care about what's happening over in the Middle East? Why should we care about Israel? After all, these are not Christians. These are not Americans. Why should we even care about that? And it starts that way, but then it actually gets worse. There's a demonizing element with anti-Semitism that tries to treat Jewish people as though they are subhuman, as though they are deserving. I remember that's the most disgusting thing, Steve, that I heard in the wake of Charlie's murder, his assassination, is, oh, yeah, but he was a provocateur. In other words, like, he agitated people towards violence. He stirred up violence against himself. There are people saying the same thing about Jewish people.
Yep.
Oh, you got to understand, for years, for decades, for centuries, Jewish people are a part of every single nefarious plot to take down Western civilization or to control it. They're behind every form of bloodshed, every war. They control the entire monetary system. I mean, all of these kinds of conspiracies that you're hearing, they're even being promoted right now among the so-called right. What is going on? What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
I think there's two things happening. Legitimately, we have to understand that the upcoming generation has legitimate questions about what they are being asked to inherit. And I think that, I have a son-in-law who's in the Army.
Yeah.
And he was flat out told last year that if Joe Biden won, he was going to get some kind of indefinite deployment to Syria. For why? I know we just had a couple of soldiers from my home state of Iowa killed over there. And so we have a generation of young men that don't want to follow in the Gen X post and millennial era of dying in the Middle East for a sandlot for reasons. I don't blame them at all.
Right.
What we attempted to do after 9/11 is the greatest foreign policy boondoggle in American history. They're being asked to inherit a colossal galaxy-sized mounds of debt. And then they're being told, well, but you can't have a bailout for your student loan debt, but you're going to pay the entire boomer era of credit card bill before you even get into the workplace. Finding a girl that they don't find repugnant who isn't a feminist is the hardest it's ever been in American history. I have an 18-year-old son. We have all these conversations.
Yeah.
We have all these discussions in our home all of the time. All right. So it's very personal to me. And I think if we don't understand those legitimate concerns, then we are not going to be able to decouple them from voices like Nick Fuentes and others. What you're seeing happen with Nick Fuentes and the anti-Jewish stuff, this is just there's nothing new under the sun. The devil just has a greatest hits album, and he just re-racks it every generation. Just go back, look up Louis Farrakhan in the 70s and 80s. Just add some melanin, or subtract it in this case. Subtract some melanin, and it's Nick Fuentes. It's the same message from the same premise. The post-civil rights era and the introduction of the welfare state destroyed Black America. It destroyed Black subculture. It destroyed the Black family. It all but ended Black fatherhood as a systemic construct. Into that void comes a Louis Farrakhan. You were meant to be more than this. You weren't supposed to just be a hood. You weren't supposed to just be a thug. Yeah, I want to be more. But you need to know, though, this happened to you because you're a victim. It's not because of the choices you made, all right? Nick Fuentes is saying, listen, the reason you can't get a girl is not because you still live in your mom's basement and you're ODing on Code Red Mountain Dew and you're 700 pounds. He's never going to say that. Just like Louis Farrakhan never said, the reason you haven't gotten a job is because you don't want to start at the bottom, but you think you're entitled to something. These are grievance peddlers, grievance grifters, and they prop up in every generation, and they take on various forms. Hitler tried to Nazify Germany in the 20s and 30s,
right?
But he got laughed off the stage. It was only once the Weimar Republic's failure was complete that people went back and said, well, maybe he was right all along.
Right.
And so we need to understand that what we are asking our young men to inherit is morally a criminal enterprise.
Right.
And we need to address that. And then we need to address it biblically. And if we don't, they're going to end up more and more in the grips of this kind of nihilism. And this also gets to the Jewish question. Farrakhan peddled all these exact same Jewish conspiracies. All right. Well, they own the ghettos. All right. They're the ones charging your family rent. You can't get out of the ghettos. They own the bank. None of this is any different. Why? Because the Church of Hell has denominations just like the Church of Christ does.
Yeah.
Right. Does your audience ever wonder, why do they have, transvestites for Palestine?
Right.
Have you ever tried being a transvestite in Palestine? Right.
You get thrown off a roof.
Your pronouns become we were. That'll be your pronouns.
Right.
Right. Okay. But then, so audiences like ours are like, well, why are they aligned with these Muslims? They're different denominations of the Church of Hell, here to destabilize the Christian West. And so just as you can get our sects to set their differences aside when they're united by missiology, works over there too.
Yeah.
And there's a singular mission, the undoing of the West.
Yes.
And what's happening now, it's no coincidence that the surge of this, especially after Charlie's death, the one who was leading the vanguard on reaching the next generation of young men with masculine, robust, biblical Christianity, get married, have children, go to church. In other words, sign up for causes bigger than you, emulate Christ-like servant leadership, right?
Right.
It is no coincidence that in the aftermath of his martyrdom, where as big of a star as Charlie was, it supernovaed after his death. This was the most watched proclamation of the gospel in human history, was his memorial.
Yes.
It is no coincidence that the enemy said, snap, we need to get a counterfeit out there pronto.
Yes.
And that is no coincidence. And then I think, how blunt am I allowed to be? Can I name names?
You can name names.
Okay. Because it's not my show. You're going to be left with the mess.
Right.
But then I think, frankly, we have somebody like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And I like Tucker, okay?
I do too.
And he's been good to me in my career.
Yeah.
I also know he's been a Christian for about 10 minutes.
Right.
And I also know he just started seriously studying the Bible within the last couple of years. And, Paul talks about how he spent 3 years.
Yes.
Basically prepping himself for his apostleship, right?
In a desert.
Exactly. Charlie surrounded himself with, he had his own home church. Do you know where Tucker Carlson goes to church?
I have no clue.
We all know where Charlie went to church.
Right.
Okay. Do you know, Charlie went out and asked Rob McCoy to be his own personal accountability pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Went to theologian Frank Turek and said, hey, check my work.
Yeah.
Who's Tucker talking to? Do you know?
I have no clue.
See, that's the problem. And so what we have now is kind of a greenhorn in the faith, but a big name. And he's decided, you can just tell by his actions, he has foisted himself into the void Charlie left behind.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm now going to be the first bishop of American evangelicalism. Except, be honest with you, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
And it's not even what he thinks about Israel, it's why he thinks it.
Right.
Well, Christians are safer in Qatar than Israel is a preponderous statement to the point you have to ask if someone has devolved into a double-digit IQ to say something like this.
Right.
But see, this is what happens when there's no accountability. No one checks your work. Charlie sought accountability.
Yeah.
Charlie put private dinners together. I know, I was in several of those, seeking accountability and come now, let us reason together. Let's argue, let's debate, but privately. And so when we get out of here, we can have unity and we can win.
Yeah.
Right? And we've lost all of that right now. And I think it is vital that we come out of this event this weekend And I said this at the pastor's banquet last night.
Yes.
It is vital we come out of this event this weekend with a renewed purpose, vision, shared missiology, to feel like that momentum of unity, those early mustard seeds of revival again. And it's going to take all of us, frankly, to fill that void, because you're seeing rise up either, I would say in Tucker's case, a naive view of the world.
Right.
Naive. Tucker's brilliant, but naive. But he's a greenhorn from a biblical worldview standpoint. He's doing math. He's not ready to do yet.
Right.
Cosmically. And then we have, I think, just flat out nihilistic forces like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes.
Right.
And you can and the massive boost the enemy and his camp gives them.
Yes.
And they're attempting to fill the void left behind by Charlie's martyrdom. And that's the challenge that we face today, right now. Almost 100% overlap between, am I friends with Nick Fuentes? Do I promote Nick Fuentes? And am I also saying we should decouple from Israel?
Yeah.
Almost 100% overlap. And that is not a coincidence. Now, that is not to say we should not have serious generational consequences about our future foreign policy, our relationship with Israel. I know tons of conservatives in Israel that would like to decouple from the United States. They think we're holding them back.
Right.
All right. Come now, let's have these debates. Let's have these conversations.
Right.
Okay. But if your answer is, if the guy who's been provoking most of these debates, like Tucker has been, with the biggest platform, and then his answer 2 days ago was, well, we should actually be friends with Qatar instead, the funders of the Al Jazeera network.
Yeah.
Either you're incredibly naive or something else is at stake or at play here.
I totally agree. The false choices that have been presented are
great term. That's exactly what it is.
False choices are pretty laughable.
Yep.
And so it's like either you're for endless amounts of
debt. But let me say this, brother.
Yes.
They're laughable, but if you're 19 years old, 21, you're undiscipled.
Right.
You go to a church where you could probably beat the pastor up, or you don't go to church at all.
And he's not talking about this stuff anyway.
Yep. Yeah. And you have no dad, or your dad is asleep in the lazy boy,
right,
and he knows way more about his fantasy football team than he does what's going on in your life.
Right.
It's not stupid to them. It's prophetic.
Right.
It's maybe the answers to why things are so screwed up. Again, there's nothing new under the sun. This is just 21st century Gnosticism.
Yes.
That's all that it is.
You know, I had a great conversation last week. I was speaking at an event, women's group, Republican group up in Delaware. And one of the ladies that was organizing the event, I was talking about the thing about Nick Fuentes is that he says a lot of things that are crazy. And then he says a lot of things that are actually not quite so crazy. They make a lot of sense.
So did Louis Farrakhan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And therein lies the danger.
Sure.
Because
if Louis Farrakhan just came right out and said, listen, I'm a demonic construct from hell.
Yes.
Follow me to oblivion.
Right.
Who's following that?
Nobody.
Nobody is.
Yes. No one shows up and says, here I am, I'm the devil.
Right.
And I'm here to steal, kill,
if
and
Nick
destroy.
Fuentes started the conversation with, be like me and end up 50, 60, alone, no legacy, no wife, no kids,
right,
no purpose, no mission, and just live a debased life. If the young men knew that was the conclusion of what he was peddling, would they do it?
Right.
And see, this is where I think men like us come in.
Right.
We skipped a generation of men finishing well in this culture. And so a lot of these young men do not know what the reward is on the other side for servant leadership as a husband and a father when they're young. They don't see grandma still pinching grandpa's butt.
Right.
And they don't get a room. You guys go get a room. They don't hear that anymore. In fact, grandpa's probably left grandma for his secretary.
Right.
He left his wife of his youth. Or grandma watched too much Oprah and found out she's on a quest to find herself.
Sure.
And she left grandpa.
Right.
Okay. Or the grandparents aren't around to help you with the kids because they're on a beach somewhere in Belize. And they're posting on Facebook for all their boomer friends the endless summer vacations they're taking, right?
Sure.
And so that's when you're the younger generation and that's the faithlessness of the older generation you see, you do not see that there is a reward on the other side for this faithfulness and this stewardship and this selflessness. And that's where now we're going to decide, the older men, and are we, particularly Gen Xers like me, do we finish the race? Do we show the young men what's on the other side? And if we do, then we can rescue them from the jaws of the people we're talking about.
Yes.
And if we don't, we can't.
One more thing, just one more question. How do we save, what was one practical thing we can do to help save the lost boys of the West?
I was on a show yesterday and the question came, how do I raise heterosexual kids who love Jesus? Here was my answer. Be a heterosexual adult who loves Jesus. I mean, how will they hear the word if there's no one to preach it to them? All right, we have to be able to model. And then when we fall, just be honest.
Yeah.
All right. 5 years ago, my Liberty alum, one of the reasons she's an alum of your school is because 5 years ago, we were nearly the Christian cliched couple. We grew apart. The God wouldn't want us to be where we are. There's somebody better. We had divorce plans the next morning to call the attorney.
Wow.
And then the Lord literally stepped in and said, you are idiots and we're not doing this, and saved our marriage.
Yeah.
All right. That's one of the reasons she ended up at your school.
Wow.
And that's why she works in with Christian family counseling and therapy right now, to stop other couples from going into the abyss that we came this close to going into, right? Be willing to use your testimony. Demonstrate God's faithfulness after repentance and forgiveness, right? And the best thing we could do to reach the next generation is model for them what we want them to look like in their generation.
Amen. Well said, brother. Thank you so much,
You
Steve
bet.
Deace. Thank you for joining us.
You bet.
And for your leadership. Really appreciate it.